Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be discussing regarding the design of IIR filters using bilinear transformation technique. Okay, so last day we discussed about the impulse invariance method, and today we will be discussing related to the bilinear transformation. So again, I'll be sharing my screen, but before sharing my screen, I am telling all of you whatever I will be telling, listen very carefully. The notes are there. End of the lecture, I'm always supplying the notes, giving the notes in the Google Classroom. So rather than following the notes, when I'll be telling something, then try to note it down. Okay, because everything is very easy here, but you just need to know all the points. That's it. Yeah. So I'm sharing my screen beforehand for all of you. Okay. So you see, the heading is written design of IIR filters using bilinear transformation technique. Now, before going to the note, I'm telling something. Listen to it carefully first. It's the introduction. Okay. And rather than after that, you can go through the note. And I'll be telling you to go through the note. One more thing. Omega, the way W is written. So here W, that is omega, will be used many times. And one more symbol will be used many times, which is ohm, means the symbol of resistance basically. So I will be using the word ohm for that symbol and omega for omega. Okay, so don't get confused. Yeah. Okay. So I'm starting. See, the impulse invariance method of designing digital filters. Obviously, it's a good method, but apart from a good method, it is having some limitations also. It is a good method. It is a great method, but it is having some limitations. What kind of limitations? You should know. You see, this impulse invariance method is appropriate only for band limited signals. Okay, because in this method, a strip in S plane between ohm equal to 2k minus 1 into pi by 2 and 2k plus 1 into pi by 2. Remember, this was the general one. You see, wait, you see this one. General range in general, 2k minus 1 into pi by t and 2k plus 1 into pi by t. Sorry. So, since this is the general one, so this thing is mapped completely into the Z plane. So, thus, aliasing is caused by the mapping of all such on top of each other in Z plane. Now, in order to overcome this aliasing problem, it is necessary to have a transform, or it is necessary to have a transformation in which the transformation is one-to-one mapping. You remember? I told you it is a many-to-one mapping. You can see the diagram again. See, this is a many-to-one mapping, the relation between Z plane and S plane. Yes or no? Many-to-one mapping. So, for having a better transformation, we should have one-to-one mapping. That one-to-one mapping is given by bilinear transformation. Clear to all of you? So, thus, such a transformation will map a single point in the S plane to a unique point in the Z plane. Such type of mapping is called bilinear mapping. Bilinear means 1:1. So the bilinear transformation is a conformal mapping by which we transform the j ohm axis into the circle in the Z plane only once, avoiding the aliasing effect. Okay, our main target is to avoid the aliasing effect. So that is overcome in this method, bilinear transformation. So in this method, the points in the left half of the S plane are mapped inside the unit circle in Z plane, and all points in the right half of the S plane are mapped into the corresponding points outside the unit circle in the Z plane. Clear? Now you can start the note. I'll be telling. So See, let us consider an analog filter with system function Hs equal to B by S plus A. Okay. Now, this system is also characterized by the differential equation, equivalent of this system of differential equation. What it will be? So, d by t by dt plus a into yt equal to b of x. Okay. Now, on integrating this derivative, means the differential equation, and by approximating the integral by trapezoidal formula, you need not go deep into the trapezoidal formula, you just need to remember this equation 3 given in my note. Just remember the equation because you don't have so much time to go through the trapezoidal formula. So after integrating this differential equation, after getting the solution of this differential equation through integration, and then approximating that integration by trapezoidal formula, we get yt equal to integration t0 to t y dash tau d tau plus y of t0. Okay, so this is our equation 3. Now, in place of t, let us put nt, and in place of t0, let us put nt minus t. Okay, so if I put in place of t nt and in place of t0 nt minus t, you see equation 3 will turn to equation 4, y of nt equal to t by 2 into y dash nt plus y dash nt minus t plus y of nt minus t. Okay, now at t equal to nt, y dash nt equal to minus of a into y of nt plus b into x of nt. Okay, clear? Now substitute equation 5 in equation 4, y dash nt. In place of y dash nt, put this value. So what do you get? You get this 1 plus 80 by 2 into yn minus 1 minus 80 by 2 into y of n minus 1 equal to bt by 2 into xn plus x of n minus 1. Okay. Now this equation 6, we will be taking the z transform of this equation. Okay, simple z transform. So what will be the answer? The answer will be, you see, this 1 plus 80 by 2 yn will turn to yz minus 1 minus 80 by 2 yn y of n minus 1 will turn to yz into z to the power minus 1 equal to bt by 2 into xn plus x of n minus 1 will turn to 1 plus z to the power minus 1 into xz, means actually xz plus xz into z inverse. Okay. Okay. Now remember system function hz. So hz equal to yz by xz. So what is yz? Yz is bt by 2 into 1 plus z inverse divided by xz is 1 plus 80 by 2 minus 1 minus 80 by 2 into z inverse. Okay. Just we are equating the equations, nothing else. So hz comes as, if you shorten it more, then b by 2 by t into 1 minus z inverse by 1 plus z inverse plus a. Okay. This is our equation 7. Now you compare this 7th equation with your first equation. You see, what was your first equation? Hs equal to b by s plus a. Here, now what is hz? Hz is your b by 2 by t into 1 minus z inverse by 1 plus z inverse plus a. That means, you see, your a and b are remaining in the places where they are. Just s has changed from s plane to z plane, and the value of s turns out to be 2 by t into 1 minus z inverse by 1 plus z inverse. Clear? So this one-to-one mapping, leave the note. Now again, listen what I am saying. This one-to-one mapping is called bilinear transformation. Clear? So the above derivation of the bilinear transformation is for a first order difference equation. Remember. And in general, it holds for nth order difference equation also. Okay. Don't think that this derivation is only for first order equation. It is for nth order. No problem. Okay. So now come to the characteristics of bilinear transformation. See, let z equal to r into e to the power j omega and S equal to sigma plus J ohm. So S equal to what we have got 2 by T into 1 minus Z inverse by 1 plus Z inverse. So 1 minus Z inverse by 1 plus Z inverse, if I simplify, I get Z minus 1 by Z plus 1. Okay. So now in place of Z, we put R into e to the power j omega. You see 2 by T into R into e to the power j omega minus 1 by R into e to the power j omega plus 1. It's very easy basically, which is equal to 2 by T into R square minus 1 by 1 plus R square plus 2R cos omega plus J into 2R sin omega by 1 plus R square plus 2R cos omega. Okay, just I have simplified into the real and imaginary part. Okay, now you see S equal to sigma plus J ohm, right? So likewise we do in complex numbers, equating real and imaginary parts. So if we equate, sigma comes out to be 2 by T into R square minus 1 by 1 plus R square plus 2R cos omega, and omega comes out as ohm, or rather than you can say omega. Actually, it is ohm. Okay, let me use some annotations. I have written it mistakenly. Wait, just let me try. No, it's not coming. Actually, in place of omega, this one, you have to put ohm. Okay, this one you have to put ohm. Clear, all of you? Actually, I'm not able to draw here. So in place of omega, you have to do ohm. So ohm will be equal to, just we have equated the real and imaginary parts of S. S equal to sigma plus j omega, j ohm. You see this one, sigma plus j ohm. So this one we have equated with this equation, and sigma equal to 2 by T into R square minus 1 by 1 plus R square plus 2R cos omega. And here this one will be ohm equal to 2 by T into 2R sin omega by 1 plus R square plus 2R cos omega. Clear? I'll be correcting it in my note, and when I'm giving you that from my note, comprehensive, at the last of the chapter, then you will be finding it corrected. No problem. Sorry. Okay. So now you see, if R is less than 1, then omega will be less than 0. Sigma will be less than 0. And if R is greater than 1, then sigma will be greater than 0. But if R is equal to 1, then sigma will be equal to 0. And what will be ohm? Will ohm also be equal to 0? Sigma will be equal to 0. But ohm, this one, this equation, will it be equal to 0? No, it will be equal to 2 sin omega by 2 plus 2 cos omega. That is sin omega by 1 plus cos omega. You see? Ohm will be 2 by T into sin omega by 1 plus cos omega. Clear? Okay. Now, from here, ohm equal to, we can say 2 by T, sin omega by 1 plus cos omega is tan of omega by 2. Okay. Sin omega by 1 plus cos omega is tan of omega by 2. And from here, if we try to calculate omega, so omega equal to 2 tan inverse ohm T by 2. Okay. So this is our final equation. Now, there is a figure where you will find the relationship between frequency variables in two domains. What are the two domains? It's the S plane and the Z plane. Yeah. So you see, in the x-axis it is ohm T, in the y-axis it is omega. So this is how the figure looks like, and this is the curve. And that curve, it is omega equal to 2 tan inverse ohm T by 2. Clear? Now, what do you understand from this figure? You see, from the above, from this figure, Now listen what I am saying. It is observed that the entire range in ohm is mapped only once in the range minus pi to pi. The complete negative axis in S plane from ohm equal to minus infinity to ohm equal to 0 is mapped to the lower half of the unit circle from omega equal to minus pi to omega equal to 0 or z equal to minus 1 to plus 1. Also, the complete positive axis in the S plane from ohm equal to 0 to ohm equal to pi, infinity, is mapped to the upper half of the unit circle from omega equal to 0 to omega equal to pi or z equal to plus 1 to minus 1. So this non-linearity in relation, again come to the note, this non-linearity in relation is called frequency compression or frequency warping. This non-linearity in relation is called frequency compression or frequency warping. Okay, this is what we call warping effect. So now we will come next to warping effect. See what it is written. Warping effect. Next heading. So it is written from equation 9. What was equation 9? See. This is equation 9. Ohm equal to 2 by T tan omega by 2. So from equation 9, we get ohm equal to 2 by T tan omega by 2. Now for small values of omega, ohm equal to 2 by T. And omega by 2 equal to omega by T. Since for small values of theta, tan theta equal to theta. So ohm equal to omega by T. Or omega equal to ohm into T. Yes or no? Omega equal to ohm into T. Okay. Now, so for low frequencies, relation between ohm and omega is linear. Therefore, digital filter has same amplitude as analog. For higher frequencies, relation between ohm and omega becomes highly nonlinear. This introduces distortion in the frequency scale of the digital filter relative to the analog filter. And this effect is called warping. Clear? This effect is called warping. And the warping effect is shown by this diagram. You see, the x-axis is governed by ohm t, y-axis is governed by omega, and this is the figure. Omega equal to ohm t is this one. And in general, this is the warping effect. The curve is highly nonlinear. Okay. Now, one more interesting term. But before that term, I would like to say something. Listen carefully. You see, the analog filter has a number of pass band centered at regular intervals. The derived digital filter will have the same number of pass bands, but the center frequencies and the bandwidth of high frequency pass band in the digital domain tends to be reduced. Actually, I'm talking about the amplitude and phase response of the warping effect during warping effect. So if you consider an analog filter with linear phase response, then the phase response of the derived digital filter will be non-linear. Okay, again I'm repeating. If we consider an analog filter with linear phase response, then the phase response of the derived digital filter will be highly non-linear. Now come to the pre-warping effect. See what I have written. Follow the note. The warping effect in IIR filters can be eliminated by pre-warping of analog filter. Okay. For bilinear transformation, the ohm scale is converted to ohm star scale. So ohm star scale will be 2 by T tan ohm T by 2. Ohm T by 2 why? Because omega equal to ohm T. So omega T, omega by 2. So ohm T by 2. Now if you substitute ohm by ohm star in equation 10, This one. Equation 10. So ohm, in place of ohm, I'll be writing ohm star. I'll be putting the value of ohm star. So we get omega equal to 2 tan inverse ohm star t by 2. So equal to 2 tan inverse ohm star is what? 2 by t tan omega ohm t by 2. So 2 by t tan ohm t by 2 into t by 2. So cancel out t and 2. So 2 tan inverse tan ohm t by 2. That is ohm t. Clear? So ohm t. So what we get? Omega equal to ohm t. What it means? It means that the digital filter's magnitude response will satisfy the original specifications. Okay, the digital filter's magnitude response will satisfy the original specifications. Clear? So that's all for today. The bilinear transformation and the warping and pre-warping effect. In the next lecture, we'll be going with the numericals of bilinear transformation and of impulse invariance also. Okay.